Welcome to the Shri Ekanathi Bhagavad Satsang. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswatai Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we'll be continuing Shri Ekanathi Bhagavad Satsang. So we are doing Shri Ekanathi Bhagavad chapter 2 verse. We will be starting from verse 11 onwards. Narada said, O Vasudev, the foremost of Yadavas, you have resolved rightly in inquiring about the virtues and duties that purify in all the world. So let me give a small recap. What did Vasudev, that is Lord Shri Krishna's father, said to Narad Muni? He said, listening to the questions of Vasudev, Narada was very glad, and in the same mood of happiness, he began to tell Vasudev as follows. So what did he say? He asked him, what is the most important thing? That when I was given a boon by Lord Shri Krishna Bhagwan, in that little desire, that one stupid desire of mine, I asked him to be born as my son instead of asking for freedom. So that is what I made a mistake. And then he's telling Narad Muni that even though he's Paramatma, who's my son, but when I tell him, can you give me the spiritual knowledge? Krishna Bhagwan says, I am just your son, and touches my feet and says, how can I give you knowledge? What does that tell you? It tells us that Guru is the doorway to God. Without a Guru, nobody can get God realization. The path of spirituality or the teachings can only be imparted by a real master. So here, sage Narada is such a He's a guru also, you can say, because he's imparting knowledge. Now, so when Narad Muni visits Vasudev, so Vasudev, humbly asks him, he's paying him the respects, he's being very humble, and he's asking him to kindly guide him the process and also teach him the code of conduct. Now, that is what the background is. So, let us continue. Verse 11. Narada said, O Vasudev, the foremost of Yadavas, you have resolved rightly in inquiring about the virtues and duties that purify all in the world. Narada said, O veteran Yadava, O spiritually intent Vasudev, great is your inquisitiveness. There is no doubt that you have great devotion for Bhagavata. That is, what does Bhagavata mean? Bhagavata, way of life. It simply means it is the way of life. How we have to live in this world, how we have to conduct, how we have to, how should be our thought process. Everything is taught to us. And this is our foundation. It forms the very foundation of our spiritual, lineage that we are born of, which is called the Hindu Dharma. That is the Dharma, the following the path of righteousness. Oh, the father of Lord Shri Krishna, it is very good that you have asked such a question, by the reply to which the whole world will have opportunity for liberation. How sweet is that? Just that one question of Vasudev, everybody else is now being given that knowledge. So it is important that somebody has asked this question, because of whom this answer is going to be given by Narad Muni. So he's saying your question is going to give answer by which everybody in the world can get an opportunity for liberation. What wonder is there that by this catechism, the sadhakas will be enjoying freedom. Sorry for that word, I don't know what it is, because it's a translation from Marathi to English. So kindly excuse me for that word. I don't know what that is mean. Even the most incorrigible sinners will be emancipated. Even the most incorrigible sinners, human beings are the most fallen souls. You know why? Because they are so petty. They are so, I don't know what to even say. Can't even describe them, because you are only following your baser, lower nature, which is, always behind lust and greed, full of desires. There is no goodness, pettiness, epitome of pettiness, and you can describe everything a human being is today. The goodness doesn't even exist in the Kali Yuga. This is Iron Age. What is happening? Man is going down and down with the way he's behaving. He doesn't know how to respect. He doesn't know how to speak. And you can blame it all. My parents have not taught. Somebody has not taught. Even after imparting the knowledge, you're not even imbibing the knowledge and applying it, which is very sad. But you know what? The Lord's effort is to continue to teach. If you, by grace, if you can imbibe and apply in your life, You will be emancipated. If not, then it is your funeral. Even God comes, can't help. In Tripura Rahasyam, Dattatreya very beautifully says that. What does he say? He says, even if Lord Shiva comes and, gives you the knowledge, if you do not overcome your tendencies, there are 3 faults in the system. If you do not overcome them, no liberation can be achieved. The Guru can sit and, keep on teaching, but nothing can be achieved if you don't become that disciple who will be able to imbibe the knowledge and apply. See, just listening in is one aspect. You need to then cogitate, you need to meditate, and application of knowledge is very important, which means practicing. Sadhana is a must, and if you don't do sadhana, there is no spiritual growth for you, come what may. So, chapter 2, verse 12. Heard of or talked about or dwelt upon, accepted with reverence or approved when practiced by others. This religious course purifies at once, without doubt, even the hostile to the God and the world. This code of conduct is such that many become free by listening to it. Reading about it emancipates some, and some are freed of the bondage of worldly life by meditating upon it. So he's giving 3 aspects, how 3 different things can be achieved by listening to this code of conduct. What does he say? Many can become free just by listening to it. And reading about it, some get emancipated. And some are freed of the bondage. What is the bondage? My family, my children, my husband, my wife, my office, my house, my possessions, all that is bondage. So some will get freed from the bondage as well. But it all depends on every individual. So some listen while a speaker is giving discourse on this subject and others are hearing. This is appreciated by such persons, and exclamations like, oh, wonderful, how nice it is, etc. are uttered. By this also, those people are liberated. How many do feel like that? Very few. It is not in everybody's capacity to appreciate this knowledge. Because when you understand the truth, you will understand how futile your worldly life existence is. That is what Eknath Maharaj is saying here. Even this is not very wonderful, but even if there is a devil who hates gods or a person who hates the whole world, he also gets liberated if he listens to these rules of conduct. If these rules of conduct of Bhagavad system of discipline are held dear to the heart of a person who is doing misdeeds finds that his sins are wiped out and all his anti-religious activities are destroyed, and he is uplifted to a very high status. How beautiful it is. What is he saying here? He's saying, even if you don't even believe in anything, just that if these rules of conduct of Bhagavata system of discipline are held dear, you must hold it, very precious it is to your heart. Held dear to the heart of a person who is doing misdeeds, who is doing all kinds of wrong things in this world, unrighteous action, adharma, thinking bad, being petty, doing whatever sins they are doing. What is he saying? Doing misdeeds, finds that his sins are wiped out. And all his anti-religious, he might be even against the religion, he might be talking bad about God. All his anti-religious activities are destroyed and he is uplifted to a very high status. But do you think such a person exists? God alone knows, Krishna knows. Then, wherever these rules get introduced in practical life, these destroy the binding as well as bad karma and wipe out even the names of criticism, hatred, ignorance, etc. What all it can destroy in us is what is being mentioned. Since you have asked me about the secret of such a grand religion with great respect and devotion, it must be said that you are of a very pure heart and great good fortune. What is he saying? Narad Muni is saying that Vasudeva is of a very good heart, very pure heart. Only then can you seek this knowledge, and only when the grace of God is there can those knowledge come to you, not otherwise. But what is most important? Purity of your heart. See, in the last, in this chapter, yesterday, whatever we did, we learned something very important. What does Vasudeva say to Narad Muni? He's saying, you come here to uplift the fallen souls. Somebody who's in the rock bottoms. They must have done all the bad things, yet you come to uplift. You give everybody an opportunity. God gives everybody an opportunity. But you know what? Man being a man, he's like a dog's tail. You know, what does he do? Even after God sits and gives you the knowledge, you're like the dog's tail who doesn't want to do anything in life. No application of knowledge. You know, it's like the dog's tail will never get straightened. That's how human beings are. They will lose that opportunity. Because see, grace comes once. But if you keep on not doing anything and going against it, the grace goes away. God is not going to ever be there. You need to understand what is important for you in life and do accordingly. So that is what he's saying here. How much should we appreciate your good luck? The Lord Sri Krishna, by reciting whose name we have become purified and respected throughout the world, has taken birth as your son. How sweet is that? What is he saying? How much should we appreciate your good luck? It's with great fortune. Krishna Bhagavan itself has taken, birth as his son. And imagine when you're born as his son, actually Vasudev doesn't even have to do anything. Yet he says, no, I need to purify this one desire that I had. And I asked for a wrong thing, to my wrong fulfillment. I asked for a desire that I need God to be born as my son. But now I'm asking this once more, that I want to be liberated. How beautiful is that? The Lord Krishna is always staying in your house. Therefore, I do not see any other person as fortunate as you. O Vasudev, from your name, the name of Sri Krishna as Vasudev is derived. And when a person remembers that name, he becomes so purified. Chapter 2, verse 13. You have reminded me today of the Almighty God Narayana, the most auspicious God, whose name, when heard and sung, brings great spiritual merit. You have reminded me of that God Narayana by praising whose good qualities and remembering whose name the bondage of mundane life is cut. Therefore, may your speech be always pure. O Vasudev, may your life be blessed, because by listening to your question, Narayana has become manifest in my heart. Thus, you have greatly obliged me. By hearing what Narada said, someone may say, he had earlier forgotten Narayana and that he had remembered him after Vasudeva asked the question. But those who have doubt in their mind should be considered as intent upon killing themselves. Please see what Shuka is explaining. So says Eknath. That is Eknath Maharaj. This exposition is given by Eknath Maharaj. In the pit of fire, there is already fire burning, but when we pour ghee on it, it flares up. Similarly, when questions are asked with great love, even the adept becomes happier. How sweet is that? When the listener becomes very happy in his devotional sentiments, the adept, the master, who is telling the story, becomes more eager. He who understands the secret of the sweetness of listening really knows. Vasudev had asked such a question, by the answer of which persons, free men or seekers for freedom, and ordinary people also experience the peace through Bhagavata way of life. And therefore, even Narada became very joyful. So what is this saying? Narad Muni was very happy when Vasudev asked such a beautiful question. Why? Because he wants to now explain about the greatness, the code of conduct, which is defined by Sri Krishna Paramatma, which is what is very important for us to purify, for us to redeem ourselves, destroy the sins and the karma that we are committing every single moment. See, karma is not just by action. It is the thought. So the foundation lies in the purification of your heart. So what is most important? Purity of your heart is important. The next is purity of your mind. And then what is the purification that you have to go through? The mind's purification is important. And then surrender to the divine Lord has to happen. Because if you do not purify your heart and the mind, then what is the point? See, understand, we have so much of our vasanas with us. All the shadripus with us. And that is going on, coming out. And it's not going to allow the knowledge to seep in. Why? Because sadhana is missing. Practice is very important. It's not just listening. It's not just learning. But application is so important. Until you don't do that, then how will you evolve in spiritual world? How can you become a pure being? It's not going to happen. So what is he saying here? And in order to impart that knowledge about the way of life with supporting evidence, Narada began to tell the earlier history. What is it called? The way of life. This is what Sri Krishna Bhagavan has, taught us. This is the foundation of the Bhagavad Gita and Uddhav Gita. It is talking how do human beings live in the material world. There is a framework which is defined, and today everybody has gone out of this path. Everybody are following a dharma. So what does the Lord teach us? He comes, he manifests to establish dharma. and remove the adharma. And what is his most important? He is teaching the way of life. Today, every human being has gone off the path, and there is so much of upheaval in the world. And if you don't care about your well-being, then be my guest. It's your funeral. So chapters 2 verse 14, wise narrate even now as an old history, the dialogue of the sons of Rishabha and the great Videha, that is Janaka, that is King Janaka. Earlier in the history, same kind of question was asked by Janaka and answers to it were given by 9 sons of Rishabha. Narada said, I am going to tell you the whole history of the inception of the Bhagavata way of life. So let us begin. So before that, but you will ask, who were the sons of Rishabha? So I will tell you their ancestral lineage. They were born in a great family, and in those 9, there was great abiding faith in the absolute Brahman. Chapter 2 verse 15. Priyavarta was the son of Swayambhuva Manu. Agniradha was the son of Priyavarta. Nabhi was the latter son, and Rishabha was his son. It is thus remembered. Swayambhu Manu had a son called Priyavarta, whose son was Agnirdha, who was very famous. His son in turn was Nabhi. These were all belonging to the Solar dynasty. From Nabhi, Rishabha was the glory of knowledge was born. He was the partial manifestation of Lord Mahavishnu. He propitiated the path of liberation throughout the world. So chapter 2 verse 16. He was called an incarnation of Vasudev, not Sri Krishna as the son of his father Vasudev, but God Vishnu. Because he did explain the path of liberation, he had 100 sons who were beyond Vedas as regards knowledge. Rishabha was essentially Vishnu only, who had taken a partial incarnation in him to establish faith in the path of liberation in the world. His biography has been given in the 5th division of this great book. He had 100 sons who were well versed in the Vedas and sciences. Among them, the eldest son was very pious, and I am going to tell his strange life story. So Narad Muni has given a lineage, how this all began, and how the story about these people, that is Rishabha, and the wise, that is Videha, that is King Janaka, is coming about. And now he's going to teach the code of conduct through this story. So there was a lineage explained. So chapter 2 verse 17. The eldest of them was Bharat, who was devotee of God Narayana, and after whose name this country is called Bharatvarsh. So we are not India or Hindu. The name of India, so called, was given by the Western people, they call the Britishers, or others who actually Britishers who ruled who ruled over us. But what is the actual name? The King Bharat ruled India, and our country was named as Bharatvarsh. We were known that we were all the people who've born out of this lineage, that is Bharatvarsh. The eldest son was called Bharat. He was a great devotee of Narayana, and this country, which is called Bharat Khand, is so called after his name only. So now you know where the name has come, Bharat. He worshipped Narayana continuously with his mind, speech and action. Though he was attending the duties of the state, he never forgot that he was Atman. Just as it is only the earth which supports man, even though his feet fall in the straight line or irregularly, or his feet are hurt. Thus, though he was looking after the affairs of administration and performing the necessary duties, he never failed in his faith in the Atman. What is he saying? He's saying that the king was a very devout being, and he always was lost in the Atman, which is the Paramatman. Though he was ruling the kingdom very well, he was a very pious king, but he never forgotten his spiritual upliftment. He was always lost in the Atman, the self. This state is called the unbroken state, which is not distributed even at the end of the eternity, and in which state man is very happy, and he has not he has not to take birth again. Thus Bharat was ruling most wisely and was of good moral conduct, and he was one pointed in devotion to Narayana. Single pointed devotion. I am going to tell you this in detail. Please listen. The vast multitude of men is called Nar. Atman is the ayan or place or basic state of this multitude, and therefore Atman is called Narayan. So it is Nar and Narayan. I think this is also explained to us in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna Bhagavan, when he's talking about Bhagavad Gita, when he's imparting this knowledge, he's telling Arjuna, you and me have already been taking birth time and again. You are the Nar and I am the Narayan. So Bharat was Parayana, means he was totally surrendered to him, which means that he negated this I-ness completely and became one with him. How was Bharat? The king Bharat was Parayan. Parayana means what? He totally gave up this I in me. Have you seen today people? The I stand so strong. I, me, myself. I am the greatest. I am some Lord Almighty. I own so many properties. I am earning. I am giving. Who is this I? The moment you have the I, please understand, you falling down is imminent. You can't rise above. Stop this I, me, myself. God gives. God is the one who's taking care of everybody. Who is this I? So destroy this I-ness. That ego, ahankar, will not allow you to evolve anywhere. Forget whether it's in the material world or in the spiritual world. Spiritual world, there is no entry at all. Ego will only make you regress. The progress can never happen. Only till you don't destroy your ahankara, God will not even come near you. That is the truth. So what is the first thing? Which means that he negated his I-ness completely and became one with him. With whom? The Lord Almighty. Thus this son of Rishabh was Bharat, whose fame is filled in the whole world. As Bharat had been born in this country, it is called Bharatvarsh. At the beginning of every Vedic ritual, etc., the name of Bharat Khand has to be uttered. Do you think anybody is performing this or doing this? Because nobody understands what is real Veda. Only God can teach you what these rituals are and how do you perform these rituals. Just by learning it, you are not going to understand the codices that is there in those verses. And that is why today, everybody who is reciting and performing rituals are not going to go anywhere. On the contrary, whatever you do, there is always going to be a contrary effect or results coming out of it. So be very careful. Don't fall for these things in this world today. The truth or this purity doesn't exist. But even if a man is so identified with Atman, bad company is detrimental to him. This is very important. In order to emphasize this fact, I am going to tell his life story, to which please listen. So what is it being said? But even if a man is so identified with Atman, bad company is detrimental to him. This is a very important word. You might be identifying yourself with the self, your Atman and everything. But when you have one bad mango, other bad mangoes will also get destroyed. No, other good mangoes will become bad as well. So one mango which is bad, you cannot keep the company. That is why in our spiritual world, even in the material world, one of the things which the wise men, the gurus or the sages and the saints will always teach you, to keep the company of the holy. When you are attached and associated with the material worldly people, you will also be like that only. Your destruction is imminent. They are anyway going into the gutters. They will also drag you to that. Please remember this. I am not saying, the scripture is talking this. So, what is he saying here? Bad company is detrimental to him. In order to emphasize this fact, I am going to tell his life story, to which please listen. By his name only, he was famous, and therefore the country was and is identified with his name as Bharatvarsh and Bharat Khand. But his greatness goes beyond the simple thing of the land being called Bharat Khanda, of which I am going to tell you the whole history. Please listen. Chapter 2, verse 18. He, having enjoyed the pleasures of earth, left them and living only to serve Hari, got identity with Hari after 3 births. He conquered the earth, the only limit being the sea on all sides, ruled the earth and enjoyed all the pleasures which are out of reach even for gods. His wives and children were obedient to him. His minister and the whole nation was obedient to him. But even then, he gave up all his enjoyment. Such a great king, just imagine. He did everything right. He was a pious being, pure heart. He had already established his identity with Lord Narayana. And what else? He ruled the king in a very righteous manner. Everything, perfect example. He had good wives, obedient children. His minister and the whole nation was obedient to him. But even then, he gave up, what is the most important thing? He gave up all the enjoyments. Today, what is a man doing? Oh, he wants to enjoy. I want to enjoy a little bit. I want to go on holidays. I want to enjoy. I want to eat. I want to satisfy my, palate. I want to see around. I want to travel. All these things, merrymaking. A person today doesn't even put any effort. They're not truthful to anything in their life. They're so insincere to everything that they do. It's very sad. They are not 100% in it. Single-pointed devotion doesn't exist in anything that they do. They do it for the heck of doing or half-heartedly. It's a very sad state. And most important, they only want to enjoy and they want everything on a platter. They don't even want to lift their finger. Even, today we are entered a state, the tamas is at such a rise that, people don't even want to chew the food. If somebody can chew it for them and, get it into the system, that also they will be ready for doing. That is tamas and inertia. And people want to take rest constantly. I don't know what rest you need. Today I was seeing a very beautiful memory from Facebook, from my past, and we had visited this exhibition. My Guruji was with me, and it was about all the life history of Leonardo da Vinci. And that day, my Guruji and me, we went there. It was the second time I was going for this exhibition. I really loved. Someone had curated all the things that he had done, all his fine inventions and what are the kind of things he had done. So when we went there, my Guruji said, can you look around? He just made me stand in the center of that museum in the hall, the main hall. And he said, just turn and look around. So I did turn and look around, and there was some amazing, teachings office. I have a lot of stuff, inventions and so many different things. And then my Guruji said, go see for how many years did he lived. So I saw his lifespan. I forgot exactly how many years. So whatever the number of years. So my Guruji said, imagine he started, even if you'd have started at the age of 18, whatever the findings and the inventions that he was doing and those theories, all the different things that he was doing, even if you'd have started at the age of 18 and every single day, he would have spent so many hours, doing that and writing it. Please understand, he was writing it down. And when he was writing it down, and imagine till this age, he has come up with the 10,000 inventions or whatever. And please understand, he has written in mirror imaging. Means you have to hold that book in front of the mirror. Only then can you read it straight. That's how he wrote it. And if you'd have done this, so my Guruji said, every single day, this man must have worked without even a holiday. No Saturday and Sunday. Every day, nearly up to, say, we picked up even 16 hours, or even if you'd have worked for 16 hours a day and doing so much. And it's mind-boggling, the kind of things he has come up with. And without expecting any end result or anybody to recognize, he had created such a fantastic thing. And my Guruji said, that is called real hard work. This man, he did not even take a Saturday, Sunday off, and he was sincerely doing his stuff without even bothering. That is called geniusness. That is called, you're really serving the purpose of your birth. God has given you that intelligence and you're using it effectively. And what is it? He did not run after name, fame and all. He did it because that he was passionate about his subjects. Passion means he loved what he did, and he dedicated to that. And he came up with so many 10,000 inventions or whatever, the papers and the prototypes and you name it. And all that was displayed. So my Guruji said, are you really working? Next time, when you open your mouth and say, I am working very hard, know that you're hardly working. And since that day, till today, I will never say I'm doing hard work, because I understood what hard work means. And I've seen my master working really hard. And I have not seen anybody. Today, in the world of IT, automation, People sit in front of computers, do meetings, which is worthless, and they do nothing. And this is the truth about life. And they feel they are very tired. They are doing a lot of work. I honestly don't know what they have achieved. Leonardo da Vinci have done some fantastic things. I'm sure you know his beautiful painting, The Last Supper. And those are the kind of things. It's not even one thing. No, he was a mathematician. He was a scientist. Came up with inventions. He came up with so many prototypes. You name it, he has done it. And to me, that is what we have to do. And how good are we in our life? And we don't even do not even a drop in the ocean, you know, one drop of work we do and we think we have done a lot. So, keep your hand on your heart and ask truthfully, how much effort are you putting in anything? So be very good in working for yourself and the world around. Don't be a selfish. You have to make something in this life. Don't live like a very below average, like a pig rolling in that muck. That's not worth this human birth. You should make something of your life. It is very important that God has given you this human birth. Don't waste it. So coming back, let's continue. Having left all his pleasures and possessions, he relinquished his power over the sea-surrounded land and began to worship God Hari. Those who are indulging in the pleasures of royal power never become desireless. But Bharat achieved an extraordinary thing. He sacrificed everything and began to serve God Vishnu, who is the husband of Lakshmi, the goddess of riches. Actually, he could have attained liberation in that life period, but he had to take rebirth, the reason of which I am going to tell you. Having all the perfect qualities, yet there is a reason why it did not happen. And let us know what it is. I'm going to see. Okay, I will complete this verse and then we can stop and then continue the next class. A female deer was standing in the waters of a river and drinking water. She was pregnant. Suddenly, she heard the roar of a tiger. She jumped due to great fear. While jumping, however, she lost the child deer from her womb, which fell in the water. Bharat was taking bath in the river just near her. He, being of a very tender heart, picked up the little one and brought it to the shore. The female deer did not survive. Bharat found that the young one was helpless. Out of pity, Bharat began to rear up the young one at his ashram. Gradually, he formed a bond of affection about that young one. That affection was so strong that while doing his daily routine of bathing, worshipping sun god, reciting the god's name, he was attending to that young one only. When he started meditation or japa, it was that young one, the only object in his mind, attachment and bondage. He mentally saw the deer only. So what had happened? He was so obsessed with that young one. He is totally lost in that deer. His attachment became so strong. One simple thing can cost you all that effort that you have put in your life. He was remembering that little one every moment while he was sitting, eating or going to sleep. If he did not see it at any time, he used to jump suddenly. Thus, he was attached to that young deer. But one day, suddenly, the yearning went away of its own free will. At this, Bharat was very unhappy, and in the pangs of that sorrow, he himself died. Oh my God. So what happened now? So what happened is, thus he was attached to that young deer, but one day suddenly the yearling went away of its own free will. It went away. At this, Bharat was very unhappy. Why? Because you're so attached. That is very important. It is very important to note that any attachment can cost you your life, can cost you that effort. Like you might be very close to reaching your liberation, but that one attachment can destroy everything away. So all the effort that you have put in can go away with one stroke, just one attachment. And that to whom? He did not have his attachment to the kingdom, nor his children, nor his wife, nor even to any of the possessions or enjoyments, but just to that one little deer. Can you imagine? One small pet. And what happened? Bharat was very unhappy, and in the pangs of the sorrow, he himself died. Oh my God, pangs of sorrow. So sorrow for what? Somebody was so in blissful state with the Atman, And here pangs of sorrow came in his life. That's called Maya. You should understand that where there is a great attachment, death is imminent. But death cannot touch a man who is free of all attachments. Very beautifully explained. I'm going to read this again. You should understand that where there is great attachment, death is imminent. So what is he saying? If you have any kind of attachment, death is imminent. But death cannot touch a man who is free of all attachments. Bharat was having mastery over penance. Then how could death touch him? By finding the loophole of attachment, death attacked him. So what is the one mistake? That one mistake cost his life is a simple attachment to that young deer. And what did the deer do? It went away on its own will. Yet he was suffering in sorrow because of his attachment. Now you tell me, in this entire world, how much attachment you have? First is to your body, then to your family. Oh, this is my mother, this is my father. Oh, I'm very attached to my, husband, my wife, my children are my greatest attachment. Oh, yes. This misery, this story is something you should record, embed in your system and keep. And then what? My possession. Oh, my house. I've earned so hard. My job, my money, my jewelry, my car, and anything else is there. You can add all that list. You can add to the bucket list. Your attachment, that bucket list is a bottomless pit. There is no bottom also. The attachments can continue. The list is to eternity. So then what is he saying? By finding the loophole of attachment, death attacked him. So when his body died, Bharat's mind was preoccupied with that little deer. Little deer. This caused the immediate rebirth as a deer. In his case, he has to take a birth as a deer. How unfortunate. Do you remember this very beautiful teaching in Bhagavad Gita? What does Krishna Bhagavan say? Whatever thought that you are holding while you are dying, that is the what? That's the next birth you are going to get. And that is why in spiritual world, we are always taught to take the name of Lord Hari. That is Lord Shri Krishna Bhagavan. Keep saying Krishna, 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 Krishna. Because when you are dying, you should not get attached to any of those objects or any people or anybody in this world. But imagine, after so much of penance and everything, King Bharat, a king like Bharat, got into this, what do you call? The snare of Maya. It's called the illusion. And it's a deadly illusion. And this is not real. Though he has knowledge. And imagine what of normal, below average human beings who are mere mortals. You're not a great king like Bharat, who has always been in the blissful state with Atman. What a very pious being. Today, you people are so impure. Your heart is full of desires. Your, Shadri Poos is what ruling 6 enemies of humankind. You're driven by that lust and greed. What of you then? Ask this question to yourself. Any attachment, even out of pity, causes the penance of a yogi to be wasted. See, very important. What is Eknath Maharaj saying? Any attachment, even out of pity, causes the penance of a yogi to be wasted. So, one who is without any attachment is the real sadhaka, the real spiritual aspirant. This is so beautiful. What is he saying here? So, one who is without any attachment is the real sadhaka. One who is on the path of wanting to reach the divine, get the redemption. He is the real aspirant. Aspirant means one who's aspiring to get this knowledge, to redeem himself, not anybody else. Bharat met death while he was remembering that little one of the deer, and that is why he got the birth of a deer. One who remembers Lord Shri Krishna while dying becomes one with the Lord. Exactly what I just said. Is Eknath Maharaj saying the same thing? One who remembers Lord Shri Krishna while dying becomes one with the Lord. That is why it is very important not to have any attachment, any kind of desires. You have to keep only thinking about the Lord 24/7. Just keep chanting his name while doing all your duties. He's never saying don't do your duties. You have to do, but be detached. The attachment that you have is what is going to be the root cause of all your miseries. The consciousness of a man takes the shape after his death, according to the object which is fixed as an image in his mind at the time of his death. So one should always remember Sri Krishna. How beautiful. Do you want more explanation on this? I don't even think there is any need. It's so clearly explained by Eknath Maharaj. What is he saying? He's saying very clearly, the consciousness of a man takes the shape after his death according to this object. Whatever object that you're thinking in your mind, that is the next birth you're going to take. Takes the shape after his death. Then, which is fixed as an image in his mind at the time of his death. So one should always remember Sri Krishna. Bharat was born in the body of the deer, but he maintained his memory of Lord Sri Krishna. We should therefore understand clearly that penance done in this birth is not wasted in future births also. But at least you should do penance. Do you think you're doing any penance? You don't even know what is P of penance. In the next birth, Bharat again became a human being. But he was so dull-witted in a peculiar way that people called him Jada Bharat. Jada means somebody who is dumb, somebody who has no intelligence. He remained apathetic to all the powers and illusions of Maya, and so he was living in freedom. He made good the incompleteness of all the earlier births. He merged his ego in the Atman and attained the state of Brahman. What does it mean? Because he was Jada Bharat, that is, Jada means he was at the state where there was no difference to him with what that happens. That's what he's saying. What did he say? He was dull-witted. He didn't understand anything in life. So what happened? He remained apathetic to all the powers and illusions of Maya. There was no difference for him. He did not react to it. And so what happened? So he was living in freedom. There was no reaction that came about in his mind or in his heart. And then he made good the incompleteness of all the earlier births. He merged his ego in the Atman and attained the state of Brahman. I have thus told you the life story of Bharat, the eldest of the 100 sons of Rishabha. Now listen to the history of the remaining sons. So what you have understood today? Any attachment, any desire is the root cause of all your misery and of you getting into the bondage and cycle of birth and death. There is no redemption ever. And most important, what is that is required? Purity of your heart and purity of your mind, and surrender to the lotus feet of the divine Lord. If you can't do that, then there is no point in this life, that the human birth that you have achieved. The highest goal of taking this human birth is, first is God realization, and number 2 is to serve the mission of why you are born here. Serve Lord's mission, the purpose of your existence. Not being, oh, my family, my children, my this and my that, getting into that. Nothing, no redemption, more karma and more rebirths. So please remember, you want to attain spiritual will, focus on this. Be detached. What is Krishna Bhagavan teaching? Dispassion, detachment and discrimination. Do your duties being dispassionate. Don't be passionate about anything in life. And be detached to everything in life, including your children, husband, mother, father, brother, sister, everything. Detachment is the word. Because the story is all about attachment. One little attachment. Finish, your life is over. And discriminate. Everything in the material world is unreal. The relationships that you think are real are the most unreal in this world. My Guruji will teach something very beautifully. He'll say, if you want to test how many are your friends, go ask them for money. And you'll come to know how many are your real friends. And number 2, tell, if your parents and everybody are saying, oh, we are so much for you, we do this, all this. Tell them, can you partake of my karma and sins? And see how many are actually going to do it. We have the real story of Valmiki, sage Valmiki, Narad Muni even mentioned it yesterday when we did it. So understand the truth, and you have to decide what is your welfare. And God is ever kind. He's always giving his hand. He's giving his knowledge, which is priceless. You can't repay him in any way, nor in kindness, nor even in dakshina or nor anything. The only thing can you do is serve his purpose. That is all. Nobody can repay God in any capacity, because what he's giving is a priceless knowledge. It is called the knowledge of the Brahman. It leads you to liberation, not bondage. It is about truth. So value this lesson and attain your spiritual will. We'll continue the story in our next Eknathi Bhagavad Satsang. Until then, thank you for joining. Have a good day and good evening to you all. God bless.
Recording stopped. Thank you, Rashma.
You're welcome.